Hello, everybody. Welcome. Can you hear me? Yeah. All my life, people keep saying, I can't hear you, Michael. I can't hear you. Tonight, we are having a very special evening where we are going to hear from all 13 members of our Panama Mission Team. I'm your host, Phil Donahue. How many people in the room have no clue who Phil Donahue is? Lauren? George Lucas, you wouldn't know.
Yeah, do now.
All right.
Because I didn't hear you say it.
I'm confused. Are we missing somebody? JD. Oh, we miss you, JD. Well, we're gonna pretend that remote control is JD. And so yeah, JD went on the trip as well. Jonas, you go get that microphone right there, and I'm going to give this one to Eric. For the evening, Charles to Jonas will use that mic. Eric through Dane will use that mic. 6, right? 6 and 6. Yeah, that's fine. Good. All right. Now, you'll notice the TV is showing lots of their pictures from the trip. This is not one of those boring missionary reports where they're going in the next slide. And in this slide, you're going to see, no, we're just going to have these running throughout the course of the evening. So you've got time. If someone up here is speaking in an unusually boring way, you can just look at the screen, see some of the pictures, then check back in when the next person talks. That's perfectly fine. But that's what's happening in the background. We want to start, some of you may not know all of you. Matter of fact, I guarantee you that everyone here tonight doesn't know all of you. So I want to take the time to tell people who you are, and what age you are. We've got a whole lot of different ages up here. Jonas, we'll start with you. They should be on.
My name is Jonas Bentley, and I'm 15 years old.
I'm Gabriel Hernandez, and I'm 13 years old.
Leandra Martin, and I'm not telling you how old I am. Mindy Bentley, and I will be 46 on Friday. Lucy Kinney, and I'm 19.
Charles Weiss, and I'm almost 58 and a half.
Eric Ponson, I'm 18.
Paul Atchison, 82.
John Morse, I'm 61.
Mason McLean, I'm 18. Josh Snowden, I'll be 38 next Friday.
And honestly, few things make me feel older than knowing someone I met when he was a middle schooler tell me he's 38 years old. That's crazy.
I'm Denny Snowden, I'm 65 and 3/4.
We got an entertaining bunch tonight here, everybody. Entertaining bunch. All right, so I'm going to go through. Dave gave me some talking points. Anything you all want to share on a topic, when we feel like that topic has been squeezed of all the juice, we'll move on to the next topic. I do believe we've got plenty to keep people enthralled tonight with what God was doing during your all's trip a couple of months ago. We're going to start with travel. I'm going to kind of go in chronological order to the best that I can go. Travel, whether on the way from Panama City to Jaqué or from Jaqué back, tell me some of the experiences, what went into the travel to and from. Oh, and by the way, to keep awkward silences to a minimum, I might just start calling on someone to start sharing.
So the most interesting things that
Just keep it on. Don't worry about ever turning it off. That's what Nathan's for.
So one of the most interesting things in the travel for me was the van ride with Kenny. So it was really exciting, and it was a very bumpy road. And terrifying, she said.
Did you say the van ride with Kenny? Okay, that's what I thought you said. And Kenny, if you don't know, is John's brother, the full-time missionary down there in Panama.
So when we first got there, we came in on the plane, and then there was a few-hour ride with Kenny, and it was on a really bumpy road, and I think we knew that going in, that it was going to be, kind of off the beaten path type of experience, but I don't think we fully grasped how bumpy that road was going to be. And I think it was Paul that actually ended up hitting his head on the ceiling at some more than one time. I didn't know. So
it's because Paul is so tall.
Yeah. So that's the most memorable thing for me.
Wow. Yeah. Charles says that Kenny wanted to make sure they hit every pothole, really get the full Panama experience. Josh, something to add there?
The counterpoint to that is I rode with Cheryl, Kenny's wife, who was the other full-time missionary, and I quickly learned after that first ride and hearing the experience of Kenny to always get in the car with Cheryl. We had lovely conversation and very limited pothole breaks. And we would actually play a little game that I don't know if you guys knew about. It was, will he or won't he? And we were guessing whether or not he was going to pass us or the car in front of us to get around.
All of the above. Yes.
So the road is the Pan American Highway. It's a 2-lane road, and they don't work on it in consecutive order. They work on it a little bit and they have potholes. Work on it a little bit and have potholes. And it was like 5 hours of travel on this road.
5 hours. Okay, so let's
Can I add one thing? To give you an example of Kenny's driving, his philosophy is you take it, don't let anybody give anything to you, and don't let them take anything from you. And so one day we're going through Panama City itself, the last day we were there, and I'm on the left-hand side of the bus, Paul's sitting right next to me, and Kenny pulls out, and Paul says, "You better start praying." And I turned around like this, and the car's coming right here, and it stops. Literally, Paul goes, "You better start praying."
Fantastic. And we were told that as the 5-hour van ride both ways, as treacherous as that might be depending on the driver, that the boat ride also could be equally as challenging. So tell me a little bit about the boat.
Oh, the boat. So going in wasn't so bad. From what we heard later, it was actually one of the best rides in that they've had, like in the top 3, is that what they said? So it was pretty smooth sailing, not sailing, might add you, but you know, the waves were rough, but coming out was a completely different story. So 3.5 hours going in, something like that. On the way back out, the boat ride, about 5.5 hours, and it was very, 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 very rough.
Why was it so much longer going back?
Oh, the waves were crazy.
Right.
They were pretty high, so we had to slow down. And then about maybe an hour and a half before we got to the port, one of our motors stopped working. They'd been having trouble with it before. They thought they had it fixed. It worked for a little bit, and then it decided not to work anymore. So we were limping one motor all the way to the port for the last hour, 15, 20 minutes.
Did any of you get really wet?
Everyone did.
There was coming home, we had a 3-month-old baby with us. She had been born in Panama City and was going in for a 3-month checkup. And her mother was sitting right beside me, and I'm sitting beside the edge of the boat. And it went really well for a while. We had 5 and 6 foot swells we were going over in this boat. But we turned, and the wind started blowing right at me, and it was a wall of water here. I did not have a dry thread on me. You see how big I am. I'm trying to shield this mother and her baby, and I was not a very big shield. And bless one of these ladies' heart, they turned around toward me and said, "Are you all right?" I said, "No!" Silliest question I ever heard.
Well, as a Christian, it's good that you don't lie.
I look back at Paul, and Paul, I've never seen anybody look more miserable in my life. He was soaked. The waves are pounding all of us. And Leandra was sitting next to me, and I said, "Leandra, can you just ask Paul if he's doing it?" So I sent Leandra for failure. She was, so I asked her to just check on Paul. And that's what, no, what a stupid question.
So am I to understand then that you had a 5-hour van ride after that, completely soaked?
Yes.
Or did you have time to change it?
Well,
And you dried out pretty quick.
the
Okay.
temperatures are, 82 to 90 degrees, so you don't stay wet if you're absolutely soaked, but about 30 minutes.
Okay, that's handy.
But unfortunately, Kenny drives the boat about half the time as well. So.
And he hits every pothole. Yeah.
But the reason that the ride back is always longer in the boat is the currents are against you and the winds against you almost every trip I've been on. So that's not that unusual.
And how many trips have you been on?
Well, I've made the trip 6 times.
Okay.
In the boat, so. But seven weeks I spent in Jaqué.
Okay. Wow. One last question before we move on. Did anybody get sick? I love how I'm getting this and this. Okay. Eric, a little queasy?
Oh, it had nothing to do with it.
It had nothing to do with the boat? Oh, the plane ride. Wow. Okay, well now, next time you'll know to stay hydrated, get him some liquid IV. All right, moving on. I want to hear about the facility. All right, the facility there that the Morrises tend to. Tell me about food, shower, sleeping, the beach, anything about the facility while you were there.
So the facility was originally owned by another group. They bought it a number of years ago. They've been fixing it up. It's 4 buildings. And so one building is very long. You'll see pictures up there, but one building is very long. It's got 2 bunkhouses where the guys stay, and that can sleep, I think, 8.
So kind of like Crossings, kind of like a bunkhouse.
I've never been to Crossings.
You're 60 years old and you've never been to
I've been to Cedarmore. I've been to Cedarmore, but not Crossings.
Yeah, not since it became
That's
Crossings.
right.
Fair enough. But okay, there's a guy that's been to Crossings recently, so it's a lot. Okay, got it.
And then there was an open air dining and also study area, then the kitchen, an area where so there's 3 missionaries there who are journeymen or International Service Corps. Dylan, who is from Kentucky, he was Troy True and Caleb Robinson's roommate at college at Moorhead. He was there, and then Mikey from Chicago and Jacob from Mount Airy, North Carolina. So if you know what that is, that's Andy Griffith's home, right? So they were there, and then there was a place where the caretakers named Cesar and his family stayed, a place where the ladies lived, and then a workshop and tool area. So it's a pretty big area.
What about food? What'd y'all eat?
We had
Lucy, you got a microphone. What'd you eat?
Everything was really good. I expected not to like anything because I'm a picky eater, but I actually liked, I think, every single thing I tried. And I ate every meal.
Did I hear that Cheryl tried to feed some of you eggplant?
Yes.
Mason, was it good?
So I got forced into eating eggplant. And I think I made her a little mad because it was okay by itself, and I had to try it with this like white sauce. I don't even know what it was. But that was awful. And then I think I made her mad because I said it tasted the best with ketchup. So
Ketchup makes everything better, even eggplant.
The eggplant episode was after we were back in the city, so that's not what we were served out at Jaqué. Normally the food is really good there. I've been a lot of days there. It's one of my favorite places to go to eat. I mean, there's a couple of the people that are members of the local church there that staff the cooking and that sort of thing. So it gives them an opportunity to earn a little bit of money as well in taking care of us while we're there.
That's awesome.
I do want to say one thing I found very interesting is they use plantains, which look just like bananas, but do not be fooled, they are not the same. So they use these plantains and they use them as potatoes. So they don't have the sweetness as bananas, but they're more starchy. So they slice them, and then they smash them, and then they deep fry them, and they're kind of like tater tots. It doesn't taste the same, but I mean, you know.
If they look like a banana, I'm still not going to eat it.
Yeah.
You put ketchup on it. Exactly, that's what you do. Everyone have a warm shower? I heard there were a lot of warm showers.
No. None of that. Well, I figured out the trick. So, because the showers, at least for the women, were outside. The guys had their own indoor shower, but the ladies did not. I thought that was a little backwards, but okay. But the towers that house the water is over top of the shower, so it's just kind of a reservoir up there. If you beat everyone to the shower in the evenings, it's warm because it was heated by the sun through the day. So I didn't share that. Sorry about that. But everyone else was at the beach. Sometimes I would leave early just to be able to get to that shower that was warm through the day.
The beach, tell me a little bit about the beach. You're right there, is the facility, the complex is right there off the beach, is that right?
Yeah, the beach is within walking distance. You can't really see it because of the shrubs and the trees and stuff there, but it was within walking distance, and we was able to go there most evenings. We had a little break before dinner, and we was able to go out there and cool off some. So it's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous.
One of the staffers is a surfer, and there was good surf there for surfboarding if you knew what you were doing. It was very nice, the beach was.
You know how to do about anything, did you surf?
Did he say about anything? Not surfing.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about some of your work projects. What are some of the work projects you did throughout the course of the week?
Well, what I work on, obviously, in the carpenter shop, I helped with replacing some of the floorboards in the discipleship training building, and Paul and gosh, most of these guys did. The other crew, with Dane and Charles, they did a lot of painting, just because every 4 or 5 years things need to be taken care of. So.
I imagine the conditions, that high humidity, the 80s, the 90s, that's going to wear the facilities down faster than it would. For sure.
So we painted, and you'll see up there, we painted 2 buildings, but before we could paint, of course you have to scrape them, then we power washed them, and then we had to scrape that off again and before we could paint. But everybody did a wonderful job just jumping in painting. We had some of the local folks actually wanted to start painting. So we had to teach them how to paint. And so they got, some of them started doing rolling, some of them started cutting in. It was interesting to watch them learn how to paint as well.
I would like to just take this moment to remind you that a microphone works when you hold the silver part up to your mouth. Before you get away from it, it really makes it hard to understand what people are saying. So just a reminder for the 12 of you.
They cut the boards we put down in this building with a chainsaw. They cut them into 1-inch boards, about 8 inches wide and 10 feet long. And James, can you imagine what a board would look like if I cut it with a chainsaw? But they were very good. They use what they have, and they do what they have.
Jonas, painting or carpentry?
Painting.
Painting, all right. Gabe, painting, carpentry?
I don't care.
Well, what did you do? Did you do both?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. They learned how to paint. Okay, fantastic. Lucy?
Dane did a great job teaching these young ones how to paint and how to cut in. So Jonas has a lot of work this summer you don't know about.
Oh, no. Mama says you're going to be painting all summer long, Jonas. That's not good. Lucy, what'd you end up doing?
Painting.
Painting. All right, Mason?
I did all the trim.
So Mason was our, he did trim, but he cut in at the very top, which was 15 feet up. He had a very tall ladder, and he's very tall, so he's the only one that cut in at the very top of the building, so I really appreciate it. Sorry. Yeah, so I appreciate him doing
Well, no, it sounds like Mason likes to work.
Amen.
Where's that drum shop?
Hey, Michael, can I add something about the beach?
I would love for you to say something about
Two
the beach.
things that was kind of interesting about it is the beach was just a beautiful area. The sand was a little bit darker and coarser. But every time we went out there was maybe 4 to 5 people that lived in Jaqué out there. So I was asking Mike one day, I was like, do people come here on the weekend? Because this is just a beautiful area. And it would be packed on Saturday and Sunday. And he goes, weekends aren't a concept here. He said, you're probably going to see at the most 4 to 5 people from the village. And this isn't a big thing for them because they live in the water. They're constantly on the river, transporting things, fishing. So to them, a relaxing day is not to go to the beach. And so there was very few people there. But one of the funniest things that happened to us while we were down there, to get to the beach, you had to pass by the 2-story red building where we did all the training. And the last day of training, instead of going up, we were all kind of hot. We're like, we don't want to climb stairs. Can we just sit down here? So while we're sitting there, and again, there's 13 gringos, that's what we refer to, 13 gringos in a circle. And 3 people come through that were tourists or visitors to the island, and they stopped and got all excited and took pictures with us. So that was the first time in my life that I was a tourist attraction.
Well, I mean, 13 gringos in a circle sounds like a band, so maybe they thought you were famous.
We'll be starting next Sunday.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, new worship band. All right, let's move on to prayer walking. I heard prayer walking was an integral part of what you did throughout the course of the week. Lucy, why don't you start us since you've got a microphone about prayer walking?
We would start every morning around 8 a.m. because we had breakfast at 7 and we would walk at 8. And we'd get into different groups. So we had one missionary that spoke English with us. And then we'd have some native people with us, and then usually about 2 or 3 of us from our team in a group, usually about 6 groups. And Kenny would assign us different routes throughout the village. And we would each take a route, and we would stop at every house and either pray over the house, ask the people if we could pray with them or for them, or tell a story, just some type of interacting in a positive gospel way with people around us.
Okay, so was the prayer walking was localized to the village itself? Okay.
Yeah, the prayer walking, so we section off a part of town, so you go down to the street, and I think most people got to see most of the town throughout the week as you kind of did different areas.
Is there any way you can kind of compare its size, like Jaqué? Like, how big are we talking about? Downtown Winchester?
It's what, 5,000-ish? 2,000?
They said 3,000.
Yeah.
Something around 3,000, 3,500 people in the village.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can make a pretty decent loop in less than 30 minutes, 30, 40 minutes. Yeah, square mile.
Around a square mile?
Yeah. The thing that always amazed me is, you walk down your streets here, and you know some of your neighbors, but, you don't know everybody. Well, they knew everybody, and everybody knew them. And this was such a normal thing for the residents of Jaqué to be singing that nobody thought it was odd that we were coming up to them and talking to them. I even had the experience of going and on 3 separate days talking to captains of the security force, even praying and sharing Bible stories with them. Cheryl does the time, and even they were extremely open and receptive to these.
The village's version of a police force?
No, this is Senafront, so this is the Panama. It stands for Security National de Frontier. So this is their version of military border patrol, essentially. So
because you're so close to Colombia.
Because we're so close to Colombia. So they do the policing in the town, but they're also responsible for that border. And you'd often see them going out on patrol in full military gear with their machine guns and everything like that. But they were very open and receptive to all of us being there, and were very friendly, and we were happy that they were there.
Other experiences from your prayer walking?
One of the things that there were actually, I call it 2 villages. So you had Jaqué, and Jaqué, the houses were concrete block with tin roof, and everybody had electricity and running water. And I was surprised that there weren't, I was expecting a lot of cooking with wood and stuff. They all cook with natural gas, so you didn't have the smell of a wood fire around. I was kind of surprised at that, because one of the things they do, they regulate how many trees can be cut down. Because if you don't have trees, you don't get the rain. If you don't have the rain doesn't fill up the lake for the Panama Canal, and therefore the Panama Canal doesn't have any water to let the boats go through. So they really regulate that. But the other point is there's a refugee village called Pueblo Nuevo, and they're Colombians, and they're refugees. And their houses are wood, and they're built on stilts. And so you can tell completely. I went there twice at least. I went there twice at least, and got to visit with them. And some of them just have nothing because they're refugees, whereas in Jaqué, they have a little more because they're more established.
On one of the prayer walkings one day, Leandra was with that group, but we had a person that we visited with that was in real bad financial straits. He was about to lose his house. Now, I did not understand the whys and wherefores. But while we were praying for him, a guy rode up on a bicycle and resolved the issue for him. He was going to go with him the next day and go to the city. You know more about it than I do.
Yeah, so we were just walking down the main highway, and we stopped to talk to this guy because he hadn't been to church, with their church that we did every night, like their, I guess, prayer meeting, but like 6 o'clock, 7, okay, I don't remember. Anyways, 7 o'clock every night they do church. And this guy hadn't been for a couple of days, so they were like, well, let's stop in and check on him because we haven't seen him, and usually he never misses. So, unfortunately, for all the rest of the Americans, I'm one of the few at Gabe that spoke Spanish, so I was just translating as best I could. So we stopped and talked to this gentleman. He's like, I'm really worried. He's like, I got in some trouble. Senate front's coming after me. They're like, if I don't pay these fines, these fees, they're going to deport me back to Colombia. He says, I don't want to go back. It's too dangerous there. My family's here. I don't want to go. So we're like, well, I'm sorry to hear that. We prayed with him. And as soon as we finished praying, and I'm talking like 10 seconds after we finished praying, this messenger came up on a bike. He almost ran me over. I moved out of his way so he could come in the middle of us. And he's like, hey, I've got some good news. And we're like, oh, this should be interesting. And Paul and I was talking, and I was listening, and it was a whole thing. But he's like, I just wanted to let you know that your fees, your fines that you were dealing with, they've been absolved. Like, there's no issue. You're safe now. There's no worry to be deported, anything like that. So that real life miracle was really something to see. I mean, it was amazing for all of us, and of course we shared that night at church as well. Just to see God work in real time is not something that we always see here, or not something that we always notice here. He's working all the time, but to see that first person and just instant, like not even a thought had passed, and this guy's like, hey, it's fixed, God's got this. That was really amazing for me to see, and it also helped me understand. I will tell you a little bit about my visit. So I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go to Panama to begin with. The only reason I had to go is because this guy is too young. So because he's a minor, I had to go with him, and I'm like, oh gosh, the heat. I don't do heat. I don't like the heat.
We're supposed to try to inspire them to want to go on a trip.
It's in there, Michael.
So you might want to stay on the truth over there.
But I was really angry because I had to go. And just being there throughout the week and hearing everyone's testimonies and seeing all the work that they've done and their community and their partnership with in the community, just random people saying hi to them because they know who they are. Regardless of what their religion was, they just stopped and said hi, or they'd ask, hey, do you want to hear a Bible story? And they're like, sure, why not? And they could be Catholic, they could be Mormon, they could be, a whole bunch of slew of different religions, because it's like a melting pot for people coming in. So by the end of the week, I finally understood my point of being there. My point was because I needed to hear everything that was said. And I didn't realize it until the last day. The last day I was there, we were talking, before we went to the plane actually, we were talking about the seed sower story. And I was like, this is it. This is the reason right here why I'm here. This whole time I've been angry and I don't understand why I'm here. And this right here, this moment is all it boils down to. And this is what I needed to hear to realize my point and my purpose and why God put me there and on the path, because I was in the middle of a job change and everything, so there was a lot going on. But that one day, it just spoke for itself. God was like, hey, look, I did all this just for you. So I wanted to share that to let you know that God's always working, but sometimes we don't see it. And then sometimes it just takes a lot of click, like me. So from a personal standpoint, it was definitely something that I needed, even though I was fighting it the whole time. So I appreciate you guys praying for us, supporting us, and sending us, because it made a difference in my life. Just being there.
I love hearing that. Thank you so much for being here. Church family support you. I hope this means you get here on time more often on Sunday morning. Listen, I know Carroll County's a long way away. I'm pass the mic, though, talking about how much God wanted you all to do this trip, could you just kind of briefly share? Some of them know a little bit of the story, but like the passport situation.
The passport story. We've got all the stories. Before the trip even began, because, you know, why not? So Gabe had his passport because he goes to Mexico with his dad, like every couple of years or something like that. So it was still active until March, something or other. Anyways, so we had met Friday night before we left. And we were all excited. We had pizza. We worshiped together. We shared together. We were talking about all the things we were going to do. I went home that night about 11 o'clock, and I went to sign us into our flights. Well, when I did that, a big red flag came up that says requirement issue. And I was like, I just got my passport. There's no way. Come to find out, it was Gabe's passport because it expired in March, and you have to have 3 months validity past the date your first day in country. So like our first day in country was 16, 17, I don't know, one of those days. The first day we were in country, it had to be valid 3 months past that date. So that was a whole issue. So I'm like, okay, it's 11 o'clock at night on Friday. I'm not gonna be able to get a hold of anyone. Consulate, the passport office, no one. And everyone knows when you get a passport, it takes 4 to 6 weeks generally. So, worried about it all weekend, cried about it all weekend, blamed myself all weekend. Monday morning, I got up and started making calls. Me and my husband sat there, he was on one phone, I was on the other. We called 2 different consulate numbers. We even tried border control. We tried several different passport offices. And everyone's like, I can't help you. The earliest we have is Wednesday at 7 a.m. Well, we were leaving at Wednesday at like 6 a.m. The appointment was at 8, we were leaving at 7. I was like, well, that's not going to work. So we kept calling. Finally, I got a hold of someone that's like, oh, let me send you to an appointment specialist. Thank you. That's so nice. So they finally sent me to an appointment specialist, and she's like, I was like, well, I looked online. I've been checking every few hours to see if there's any updated appointments. And she's like, oh, don't worry about that. She's like, I'm the appointment specialist, that's why they sent you to me. I have all those appointments that they don't tell you about, so let me hook you up. so we had decided we were gonna drive to New York, because that was the first place we could get in. The closest one to us is in Chicago, which would have been fine, but Wednesday was the earliest they could get us in. The next available one was Buffalo or Detroit, Michigan. So we found one in New York, and I was like, okay, well, is there any other facility that has, you know, better time, earlier time, or something like that? Finally, she found us an appointment the following day, Tuesday at 8 a.m. So finally, with all that, I picked Gabe up from school, and we left for Detroit that night, Monday night. Drove all the way to Detroit, got there for his passport appointment, got to the hotel around 11, got up the next morning, his appointment was at 8, got his appointment done. About 20 minutes in, they processed it. They're like, okay, we've got you down, we've got it, we'll process it, but you can't come back and get it until 2:30 in the afternoon. I was like, is there any way I could come earlier? Because I got a lot to do. And she's like, oh no. And we locked the doors at this time, and if you're not here by then, you're not getting it. And I'm like, okay, I'll be here. So I got there about 45 minutes early, finally got his passport, and then headed back home just in time to have like 3 or 4 hours before we had to come here to meet Mark to take us to the airport at 3 a.m. So it was very interesting.
Wow, that is amazing how God worked all of those details out. Listen, give your mic to Jonas. Jonas, you said you're 15? Sophomore at GRC?
Freshman.
Freshman? No, Gabe's 13. I think Jonas is 15. Jonas, I know how I was at 15, and the idea of in a foreign country going prayer walking probably would have scared me to death. How did you initially go into it, and then by the end of the week, were you any more comfortable doing it?
Well, to begin, I was definitely nervous just to, kind of go around talking to people I'd never met before. And also the fact that, they didn't speak the same language I did. that definitely kind of intimidated me a little bit. But like the first day, his name was like Caesar, I think, or Cesar or something like that. And like we were just walking around and he asked me to pray. And I was like, okay. And like I prayed. And I don't know, just the reaction on the person's face, and just like seeing how that like definitely changed their day. It definitely gave them something to think about, like, you know, just to ponder about. And that just like really made me happy to see that it changed somehow. It changed them somehow. And that's awesome. It was cool.
Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, moving on. Yes, Charles.
One of the things that was emphasized to us when we were down there during the training, and we had 3 2-hour training sessions about the prayer walks and how to do them and storytelling. One of the things emphasized is they want the young people to be involved. So in every prayer walking group, we had someone that was, in some cases, 10, 11, 12 years old, and they were always included in either the prayer or telling a Bible story to whoever we met. And I'm going to brag on Gabriel and Jonas. The last day of the training, and when we do this, they go through, they tell us a story, we practice it, and then they're like, okay, now it's y'all's turn, and every single person is going to do this and to practice. And the last day, who wanted to go first was Gabriel and Jonas. They wanted to go first and say, hey, this is the Bible story. I want to be the first one to tell it, and I want to take a leadership role in this. And so it was really inspiring to me, not only one, to see the mission emphasizing engaging the young people to do the prayer walks, but then also then to take that leadership role and they raise their hand first and say, I'll do it. I want to do it first.
That's awesome. I love that so much.
Let me add to that. So Kenny and Cheryl did an excellent job in getting the locals, all ages, young and older, to take leadership roles. Because if they leave, they don't want the church to stop. And they're getting them to take leadership roles, and it's really encouraging to see the church grow in that way.
Fantastic. All right, moving on. Oh, go ahead, John.
Let me just share. Hockey is one of the boys that you will see in the picture up here. He's 22 now. He was saved. No. But anyway, Hockey is one of the young guys that you'll see a picture of here. He's 22 now. But he was saved. He was just over 18 years old. He had been hanging around, you know, when groups were there, he would come to kind of check out what was going on. Everybody, you know, the adults were more about telling the stories and so forth then. But starting with him getting saved in October 2022, the whole feel of the mission there changed. Because he was saved in October. The 1st of November, he was sharing Bible stories with his friends and his relatives and the rest of his family. There's no Christians in his family. So, you know, Mason and I actually got to share a story with his grandfather, one of our prayer walks. So, yeah, he was really old. This fellow was. And, but that was very meaningful to me because hockey is kind of one of those pillars of the young people there. And he keeps all the other young people encouraged and kind of, you know, updated in their walk. And, you know, these young folks, when you say young, on prayer walks, I had a 6-year-old one day, prayer walking with us, and they asked him to pray for a grandparent there. And it would just break your heart to hear these young people pray. So down to 5, 6 years old, up to 35 or 40 in the local church there. Another thing I would just like to kind of describe is the makeup of the local church. It's very family oriented. About 5, 6, 7 different families and their members there. And whenever there's a team there, after supper, you know, we get together, we sing some songs. They sing most of the songs in Spanish, which, you know, we can just kind of follow along and enjoy them singing. But, you know, they do share some English songs as well. But every night someone would share their testimony, and it's very moving. You always come back from this trip revived, regardless of how much that he just has made you sweat, and the different hardships that you might go through as an American. It's these folks, it's their everyday life. But the local church there, they have meetings on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock at the community building, on Saturdays at the community building at 3 o'clock, and then on Friday night they have prayer meeting after supper, so after 6 o'clock or so. So at any of those meetings of the local church, they would have 35 to 60 people. So starting from basically ground zero, just a couple of our indigenous partners starting to serve there in 2020. It's become a really active and a church that encourages me to go there. So
I love that, and your multiple visits, seeing it grow and get stronger every time, I'm sure is a great encouragement. And for your brother and sister-in-law, I can only imagine seeing these young people and knowing that when God calls them out of there, to know that there's leaders there that are learning and have an effect, just is fantastic. Let's move on to those jungle trips. I heard about there was a jungle trip of some kind going up the river. 2 different teams. One was a little bit more strenuous than the other. Oh, we're quickly passing a microphone to Jonas. You got something to say? Which team were you on? Team strenuous or less strenuous?
That's the team strenuous.
Strenuous. All right. So what'd you do? So Team Jungle Patrol. Josh says. Okay.
So on the way up to the village where prayer walking at. And that was fun. The canoe ride was okay, but the hike was interesting for sure. We had to have machetes and everything to cut our way through the jungle, I guess.
You were like in a movie. You literally had to do the thing.
We didn't give Jonas a machete.
And
Wait a minute.
As we were doing that, there were these bats that flew right by her because we had to,
I thought bats were only out at night.
Not there, no. And that was definitely scary.
How many people would love a bat flying in their face in the daytime? No hands. Sorry, no. Oh, the game. Yeah, of course you're in game.
I heard the canoe about tipped over.
Well, that's clear. But but other than that, the hike was fine. It was fun. It was really interesting for sure.
Mason, thoughts on the hike?
All right, first of all, the canoe ride was horrible. You're sitting on a wood plank for an hour and a half. And then we get to the hike, and Cesar, the leader, the guy with the machete, he's about 5'4", maybe. And so he's cutting a path for him in the jungle. He's not cutting a path for anybody else.
Remind people again how tall you are.
We're gonna do a demonstration.
So me and Josh are over here ducking the whole time. And then as we're ducking, all these bats come flying out. And then also
again, I want to remind people we want to try to get more people to want to come to these trips. Between you and Leandra, we're hurting here a little bit, right?
Well, the reason we had to go on this hike is because at the time we went up there, the water wasn't high enough in the river, so you can't take the boat up the river. So you got to go past the place, past your destination, and then hike back up to it. And then also during the hike, it was so muddy. It was like your ice skate. I think JD lost his shoe. His shoe fell off because it was just so muddy. But yeah, the hike was. I know.
All right. Josh, you have a thought on the strenuous trip?
I'm going to go with the good parts.
Good. Let's do.
They are a good part. No, the hike was actually fine. It really wasn't nearly as horrendous as these guys are making it out.
Big bats. I'll give them that.
I got hit with a bat. It was fine. Okay. Didn't get rabies yet. No, but it was all worth it to get to the village we were going to. I think John had mentioned that they do their church service on Saturday at 3. The reason for that is because on Sundays, they bring church to these small villages. So that's what we were actually doing. We were going up there to do church service for them. When we got to the village where we were at, we split into 2 groups. Gabe, Jonas, and Mason, along with Darwin. How old was Darwin? Was he 12? They did kids' church. They brought little games and coloring books. Darwin did the Bible story for them, and then they played. Myself and JD joined Cesar, Jaqué, and Jacob, one of the mentor missionaries, in a hut that you'll see at some point, but it was just someone's front porch. And there were about 12 of us, and Jaqué had brought his guitar, and we did a whole church service. We had 3 or 4 worship songs, not in English, didn't understand a word, but I hum along as best I can. And then they did the Bible story. There was a great amount of discussion back and forth afterward. It lasted, 45 minutes to an hour, just like we normally do here. They were very opening and welcome. The guys did a great job corralling the kids. At one point, I saw Gabe become Spider-Man. I think someone had gotten something stuck up in a rafter, and all of a sudden, there's Gabe. Oh, there he goes. But it was a fantastic experience to enter into these people's homes and to join together in their church.
And before we hear about the non-strenuous or the less strenuous part of the trip, I want to point out, a lot of you knew or might have known that Don Eads was supposed to go on this trip. He fell off a ladder, really beat up his arm. He wanted to go still after his arm was hanging on literally by nothing other than his skin. And Brenda's like, you're not going on that trip to Panama. But God had a plan in it, where Don had to drop out. Josh was able to step in and go on the trip. And I know it was a blessing for you, and I know it was a blessing for us as a church to have someone else step in and take that spot. And so thank you so much for stepping up there. All right, so what was the other trip that happened that day? Who wants to share about that? Who went on that trip? Charles got it. Nope, Dane's going to start?
I'll start. So the rest of us went to another location. We went up the same river. It was low tide going up, so you bottomed out a few places and thought we were going to have to push. So you're sitting 2 people wide, and you're about 6 inches off the water. I had a little concern about going up there, but through faith and just doing it, you go, and you just do it. So we went and...
Now did the rest of you, raise your hand if you went on that trip. So literally the rest of you, okay, gotcha.
So we went up and it was off the beach. We just beached and walked up a little hill, and we started walking through the village and telling people we were there we were going to have a church service at the community center. So I'll let the rest of you fill in.
Charles, we got
I'm going to brag on Paul for a minute. First and foremost, he got stuck with me the whole trip. Every single place we went, he and I were bunkmates. With Mason got stuck with us everywhere we went to. But what I'm going to brag on Paul, and the picture just passed by, I was going to point it out to you. Paul's a people person that I'm not, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot throughout my lifetime of watching him. I was in a Sunday school class for a while, and he's just a great leader. But he is really focused on people, and this is one example that just really stood out to me. We're walking into this village. We don't know anybody. They don't know us. And the first person that Paul comes up on is probably this little 3 to 4 year old kid. And Paul just scoops him up and is just hugging on him, and he's got him on his hip. And that little boy never left Paul's side the whole time we were there. And we were there for about almost an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And the thing that just was amazing to me is Paul was expressing his love through action. And that little boy knew it. There was no doubt. And that little boy just was, when you see him sitting on his lap in that picture, you could just see the admiration this little boy had for Paul, and that he knew that Paul was going to be there with him. Matter of fact, when the other kids went to play, I don't even think that little boy left your side, did he? He stayed there with you the whole time, if I remember correctly.
I like how Paul can't remember. They're all going, nope, he was right there by his side.
So look for that picture there, and it was an inspiration to me to see someone that, you said 82, is that right? On this trip, outworked all of us and outloved all of us.
Yeah, we don't want to bring too much attention or try to make you feel prideful or anything, but I mean, the fact that we've got 13 through 82 kind of shows us as a church family. What? Thanks, Dan. Dane's like, and they all came back. But my point is that God can use all of us, even on a trip like this, plane ride, van ride, boat ride, 82 to 13, some of us just don't have the excuse if God is calling us. So don't count out that God isn't talking to some of you. I want to talk, we're going to start with you, Lucy, because you're holding the microphone. We need to hear more from Lucy. The people that you met, any connections that you made throughout the course of the week, people that you really kind of bonded with, I'd love to hear those stories.
I think I bonded with two people mainly. One of them was this girl named Raquel, and I actually got to room with her. So it was me and her in a room together. And she understands a lot more English than she'll let you lead on. She'll let you think she doesn't understand anything, but she could carry conversations and translate, all of those kind of things. But she was just so sweet and always asked and helped me with a lot of my Spanish. I feel like I got to learn a good amount of Spanish just being in the room with her and coming in at the end of the night and holding a conversation with her about, how her day was spreading the word, how my day was spreading the word. It was a really good experience. There's photos of us in here somewhere.
So your Spanish is better. So ¿dónde está casa de baño? Fantastic. Well done. All right. So you bonded with Raquel. Any other stories?
This little girl, her name's Donna.
Yeah.
I bonded with her a good amount. Every night at church, we had church at night, and she had to be, and that's Raquel at the end. So Raquel and Donna were the two I was just talking about.
Raquel with the glasses? Yeah, Raquel was in the video at camp. She was one of the,
Donna is 5 years old. She and her family come to church every night, and she had to be sitting in your lap. Her favorite thing was just shh. Told us that even if no one was talking, you had to be quiet during church while everyone else was talking. It's so cool to see younger kids just so involved in everything that they were doing there. I mean, I think that was probably my biggest takeaway is, no matter what age you are, there was something for you to do.
There's that kid. Yeah, Paul was singing on too. All right, another connection. Some people that you all met. Yes, Charles. You need a microphone. Sorry, brother.
Raquel, as well, her family was the family of witch doctors. And she gave her testimony one night. It was just amazing to hear that here's this woman that was in the family of witch doctors. And now her grandfather, her father, her brother was all sick.
I just want to talk about a boy that me, Mason, and Jonas bonded with. His name is Darwin. And we mostly bonded whenever we went up the river and when we were babysitting the kids. Darwin shared a Bible story. It was Genesis chapter 2 to 3. And it's kids, so they're not going to listen. But it was still fun to listen to. And most of the kids would pay attention, but not all of them. But after that, Darwin, me, and Mason, and Jonas were all just together all the time.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's pretty encouraging because he's 12 years old. It almost felt like he was like more mature than I was in a lot of ways.
No comment, Mark.
I may get it from someone, but yeah. And he'd only been a believer for not even a year, and he already had like probably 10 Bible stories memorized.
Wow. And you're talking, you've heard a lot throughout the course of our discussion tonight about these Bible stories that they tell, storytelling. We're going to hear an example of that. I think Gabe's going to go through one here in a little bit, and I think Paul's going to break it down afterward, just kind of an example of some of the things they would do while they were prayer walking and stuff. But I want to get to a couple of topics. Any other thing about people that you've met interacting with?
Well, Darwin, that Mason and them have mentioned, his mom and dad are believers just in the last 2 years or less. In that length of time, we prayed for his dad to become a Christian. His dad's name's Benjamin. He's been a Christian for about 18 months now, and he's a very foundational person in their local church. Very strong believer, is the first one to be there, to serve, do almost anything. He's very active in trying to initiate when someone makes a decision to follow the Lord to be there to baptize. He and Fortunato as well. Fortunato's another one of friends and church members there. His mother's about 85 or 6 years old, and she became a Christian 2 weeks before our group here from Central came out there. So I had the privilege to get to see her be baptized in the ocean out there. So that was very meaningful for me.
Absolutely fantastic. I love that.
My favorite part of the trip, and a lot of people have asked about this, was the people. The people on this team that you're looking at here, it ought to cause all of us to have a great deal of faith in our future when you see half of this group under 20 years old went on this trip. That's just amazing to me. And then the people down there, they could not have been more welcoming to us. They showed that they were really pleased that we had come down there to be with them. The last night we were with them, there was a lot of hugging and loving going on. It was a great time.
Love that. All right, I want to talk about, oh, you got another one? Sorry.
Yeah, well, I just want to explain the money that we pay, each person pays to go to Jaqué. A portion of that, of course, goes to IMB that covers expenses and so forth. But a portion of that money goes to an organization called Aventuras Jaqué, and that's the business that's been formed so that they can finance these indigenous missionaries to go into Colombia. They're very passionate about that. Like Charles alluded to, Raquel, Mara, and Otonio, their grandfather was a witch doctor. And through circumstances of hopelessness with spiritual warfare in their community that he couldn't help his community with, he became a Christian, and he was already about 70 years old at that time. But he was very passionate about wanting to take the gospel back to his people that lived in the Darien province where Jaqué is. And also with that, he always wanted to go and share the gospel with the Embera people that are across the mountains in Colombia, a very unchurched place. And he was never able to do that. But he would be very proud now that 3 of his grandchildren are participating in that.
I'm glad you said that, because that was actually my next talking point. I don't know if Dane or you might be able to speak to it better, but I heard about, and I think even the crossings video, again, you all might have heard me say this, maybe you didn't, but at crossings this year, every week, not just while our church was there, but all summer long, both the youth camp and the kids camp, the missionary project where they would take money up for missions every night, all summer long, went to this ministry of Kenny and Cheryl Morris's in Jaqué. There was a video that Seth York had made, some of his team that went down there and traveled there. And in some of those videos, we saw Raquel and maybe a few others talking about their desire, even though it's risky, to go back over the mountain and tell the Embera people about Jesus. Why is that so dangerous, and how are they getting that done?
Well, the Darien province of Panama is about easternmost 25% of the country of Panama. I mean, there's no law there. Once you cross the border crossing with the Sena Front into the Darien, the road goes down to Yavisa, about another 25 miles. And from there, the Pan American Highway stops there. For about 80 miles over into Colombia, there is no road. There's a place called the Darien Gap. There's no law there. There's a lot of indigenous people that live there, but in the Darien, there's a whole lot of Embera. It's their traditional area to live in. But when Panama became a country in 1903, the border with Colombia is a mountain range, and that mountain range basically split cousins of this Embera tribe between Panama and Colombia. So their native language is called Dobita, and that means the river. They're known as the people of the river. So, the people of the rivers in Colombia are who our indigenous missionaries are very passionate about trying to reach, and they're trying to make inroads into there. And they've just been on the ground there in Colombia about 15 or 16 months now.
And Dane said that sometimes you call them Joshua and Caleb. Or is that just Dane, you know?
So that was Kenny and Cheryl, because they called them spies, because they were going upriver in Colombia on their own, just, and it's a very scary situation. And it's really the book of Acts playing out in real time in Colombia. They'll pull up to a village, get out, go to the first hut, and start sharing. And they don't know if they'll get kicked out or whatever. Fortunato and Julio left to go up there before we got there. And the last night, that one picture, it's Josh and me and Charles with them. They had just gotten back and sharing their stories. It's like the Apostle Paul sharing. So it was pretty amazing to hear.
Fantastic. All right, moving on. The nightly worship times. Did that happen every night? What happened during them? Josh, you want to start with you're holding the mic, buddy.
No, so every night at 7 o'clock, we would have worship and sharing times. Typically started with anywhere from 3 to 4 songs. Most of these songs we would always start in either Spanish or in Meran. Some of those had English translations, a lot of them didn't. And they would go through those and we would listen in. And then we would also share in English toward the end. So you have, say, modern worship song has 3 verses. So we do 3 verses in Spanish, 3 verses in English, and then finish up in Spanish. And so it was really kind of a collective worship experience. And this was always followed by testimony, usually 2, one of the locals, and then one of our group as well. I know Minnie shared, and who else shared? Charles. Then, Paul, did you show up? No.
He's 82. He doesn't remember.
But we heard from Raquel. She shared her testimony, as well as Darwin, who is 12. And,
wow, so a 12-year-old's up there sharing his testimony.
And then Benjamin's wife, who I couldn't, Amelia, who was one of our cooks as well. It was fantastic.
Fantastic. Any other thoughts on the nightly worship times? Charles? Microphone closer to your mouth, buddy.
I know, I'm thinking.
Sorry.
Now, one of my biggest takeaways from this trip is I didn't know what to expect going in. This is my first foreign mission trip. And what God kept communicating to me is, I am opening your eyes and opening your ears to let you see God's word in action. And many events led to that thought in my mind, but one of the ones that sticks out the most is the testimonies of the people that were in the church there. And their testimonies and their salvation stories for not only them and their families came through pain. It came through suffering. It came through hardship. It came through Benjamin's wife being attacked one day after she dropped her kids off from school and coming back. And that ends up saving Benjamin and their 2 children, their 2 sons. And Raquel's stories, her testimony is a testimony about pain, about being dislocated. Fortunato, one of the things that I still every time I think about his testimony, and he's the one that went to Colombia and come back. He was originally from Colombia, migrated to Jaqué 17 years ago, and when he came down there, he was a drunk, he was abusive, he was angry, he fought all the time. And when he moved back, he was told not to stay in certain tribes because he wasn't going to be accepted because of his previous lifestyle. And when he went in to talk to those people, he was under the impression that he would be leaving that night because it was not safe for him to be in the village because of the way he was before. And instead, the reaction was, no, you're going to stay here because you're not the person that we remember 17 years ago, and we have to know what made the difference in your life. Amen. And to hear, I mean, and what was shocking about that is for people to tell me what he was like beforehand, because after his testimony, he went and hugged every single person that was at church that night. And it was a genuine hug. It wasn't of doing this to check the box. He was coming to hug you because he didn't know you, he never met you before, but he loved you. So things like that, and those stories and hearing their testimonies, and some things that brought them to Christ, and how it's been, how Jesus and the Word was working through that village, and taking the Word to Columbia was just amazing. And like I said, I just walked away from it, God just screaming at me, I'm opening your eyes, and I'm opening your ears, and now you're seeing the Word in action.
I think that's a great idea. Maybe we should all just agree to let our worship services go 15, 30 minutes longer and incorporate testimony every single Sunday morning. It'd be a good thing to do. Let's, before we hear our gospel story, our Bible story for the night, John wants to say something. Sure. Well, I had one other thing. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, bro.
Blabbermouth, but just wanted to share, when we began our learning as a group, about learning about story and being able to share a gospel story. One of the foundational statements that this whole mission is based on is that we exist to be and to make disciples of Jesus Christ. That is the foundational statement of this place. Anyone who's been in any leadership of this, that's the goal, is to lift up the Lord. And in order to do that, we need to prepare our minds for action. So we're being led by the youngest person of the group to share a Bible story. We learned 3 different Bible stories while we were there, but each time it came time for us to present the story among our peers. Gabriel was the first one to volunteer to share the Bible story. I was so encouraged and challenged by that at the same time. But the last thing that we learned in the very first session there is that now it's our turn. We have to love our brothers that don't know the Lord enough to share a simple Bible story with them, a story of hope. How the Lord changed our lives, how the Lord has changed the lives of these people in a foreign country that never had a relationship with Him before. So,
It sounds so simple, and yet so many of us are petrified of the thought of how to share even our own story, which who knows our own story better than we do, and we're still nervous about it. All right. Oh no, they keep putting you off, Gabe. No one wants you to really talk, including your own mother. What do you got now, Leander?
Just to piggyback off of what John said, one thing that really stuck out to me, and it's something that we talked about every single day of prayer walk, was we're focusing on making relationships over religion. We're not focused on what the religion is, like what they believe or anything like that. We're trying to build a relationship with the people first, because they're not going to listen unless you have that relationship first. So that's one thing that really stood out to me, was relationship over religion. Not saying that religion isn't important, but no one's going to listen to you unless you build that foundation first.
Makes sense. All right, Gabe, give us an example of a Bible story. They want you to stand up. No, you're fine. Listen, they're very non-threatening people. You can just kind of close your eyes and picture that they're nobody, or you can do it to the balcony. Just do it in Spanish, yeah. Listen, after the Super Bowl, I don't know if we're ready for that just yet.
I don't actually know it in Spanish, so.
Okay, brag a little. All right, yeah, we'll take it in English tonight.
Is it bragging enough if I say I know more Spanish than everybody here?
No, that's just facts. It's not bragging, that's just facts.
Anyways, I'm going to be sharing a Bible story from Mark 4, Mark 4, verses 35 to 41. So the story starts when Jesus is by the water teaching, and his disciples are among the people that came out to see him. And at this time, he just finished, so he called his disciples for them to board the boat and get ready to sail. After they boarded the boat, Jesus then went to the back of the boat to sleep because he's been tired after teaching. And then a while later, during this trip, a huge storm hits. The boat starts filling with water, the winds are bad, and his disciples start getting worried. And once they see how bad it's gotten, they go down to where Jesus was resting, and they say, "Lord, do you not care that we are perishing?" And the Lord woke up and went out and said to the seas and the wind, "Peace, be still." And after that, all the disciples started talking amongst themselves, saying, "Who is this man that even the seas and the storm obey?" And then Jesus looks at his disciples and say, "Do you still not have faith in me?" This story is in Mark 4, verses 35 through 41.
Let's encourage Gabe.
What did you learn about the disciples from this story?
Now, we're the crowd here as he's telling us these and how they would go about it. So just go ahead and shout it out. Shout out the responses. So what did you learn?
They got afraid. Why did they get afraid? Speak up. Your outdoor voices.
Lack of faith. They were afraid of interpreting.
The storm. They just didn't believe Jesus could protect them. They thought they were going to die. They were afraid they were going to die. What do you learn about Jesus from this story? Yeah, all power. Peace be still, and the winds and the waves are calm. What else you learn about Jesus? He cares about us. He loves them deeply enough to pay our sin debt on the cross, die that we might have eternal life.
But the disciples still went to Jesus.
Yes, they knew enough to go to Jesus, absolutely. Right. What does this story mean to you and me? He'll take care of us if we trust Him. If we trust Him as our Lord and Savior, what's He going to do for us?
When things get tough, take a nap. When things get tough, take a nap.
That's Jesus. But when we get anxious and wake Him up, what's He going to do? He's going to be with us. He's going to take care of us. And throughout your life, you're going to have troubles and trials. If you haven't had them yet, well, get ready. Cinch your shoe straps up. You're going to have trouble in this life. We've not been promised a life of roses, but what we have been promised is that He will be with us and will take care of us. And when this life is over, He's going to take us home to be with Him. He's promised to prepare a place for us in heaven. That where He is, there we'll be also. I've read the last book of the page and I win. Regardless of what happens between here and there. That's all I have unless y'all have something else.
All right, fantastic. That's a great example. Yeah. All right, this is where I really become a talk show host. And if you all have any questions for anybody on the team, Sally, firsthand, so what do you got?
I know that you all have come back here, and it's probably like a really high, you were there and then you come back. How has it inspired you all to carry on in your Bible storytelling and all of that?
On the trip back, Sally, I sat beside a man that had 4 teenage boys, and they sounded like they were a wreck. He was divorced, difficult situation, and I told him the story of the paralytic. And and didn't get a result out of him, a decision, but he listened very carefully. He allowed me to tell him the story, and it went, I thought, very well. We'll have to leave it up to God to whether it makes any change for that man or not.
Other examples of how God has impacted you from the trip since you got home?
So one of the things I got to do is I've shared the same story Gabe did at Upward Basketball at halftime of a couple of games. So that was, and it was really easy to do. So not to say that it shouldn't be easy, but the opportunity was there.
One thing that inspired me to do is to share the story here with you guys, so you could go out and share the story with maybe family members or anybody else that maybe doesn't know or believe in God.
Thank you so much, Gabe. Great answer. Anything else inspired you since you got home? Eric?
So while I was there, I came to some very hard personal decisions, and I've decided I'm going to be a missionary because of this trip.
Sally, I would say that has impacted his future for sure from this trip.
Definitely.
That's fantastic. All right, other questions? Who's got a question for the team? There you go.
Charles, you shared in our deacons meeting that story about the gentleman that was alcoholic and violent. You told us a little bit more the results of him going back into Colombia, from him sharing what Jane transformed him. I just wonder if you would finish that out for the church, because it's really important.
John talked about, I think it was his mother or his aunt, just been saved, and he had some relatives in the village that he went to that had accepted Christ as well during that time frame. So it was his story, and not only his story, but his life change was impactful to the village. And I think one of the stories we talked about too is just the planting of the seeds. And knowing that trip, so many seeds were planted, and so many hearts are being changed and are going to be changed, just from the change in his life, and people that knew him before and could see him now, and what a difference in his life Christ has made. I think was going to impact that village and whoever else he encounters in Colombia as well.
Awesome. Other questions? All right.
I think we've got a lot of Sunday school teachers here, maybe a lot of people in Sunday school, but sort of more for the Sunday school teachers as leaders, but anybody who's in Sunday school. Based upon your experience and what you learned and what you saw that was effective, do you think that there's anything different we should be doing in our Sunday school classes based on what you learned?
Well, one thing I think that we can do is we can learn to tell a simple Bible story. We can learn to tell that story in a repeatable way that absolutely follows what the Bible says, but in our own words. And that, the gospel is still the good news. We see this really infant church that's formed over the last 6 years or so. And the joy that these people have in fellowship is the same kind of joy that we have when we're together on Wednesdays and Sundays. So I'm very encouraged by that, and I think that Kenny shares the Kenny statistic when we're doing a class there, that if you know how to present 5 Bible stories and ask 7 or 8 simple questions, that you're probably doing more with your Christian life than 99% of Christians. So, I'm getting there. I've got 3 or 4 that I can tell fairly
Well, Kenny's your older brother, so you've got time.
I'm chatting. But to tell a Bible story, and if you don't tell the story exactly word for word, or if you get some verses one in front of the other, God's Holy Spirit's gonna speak through you if you're willing to share. So I'm challenged by that every day. I've got lost friends, and I work around a a lot of people in construction. You know, I need to be bold enough to say, hey, can I just share a Bible story with you? Take you 3 or 4 minutes. And most people will spare you 3 or 4 minutes.
I think Paul and Charles are the only actual leaders up there. But one thing I was thinking, Brett, to your question is at the bare minimum, we as adult Bible study leaders, Sunday school classes, need to keep in front of the people God is giving us in our classes the importance of sharing our faith and living on faith, being ready to share your story. At the bare minimum, we need to just keep that in front of our people to challenge them. And then practically speaking, you can do more. Yeah, Paul?
Excuse me. It wouldn't take very long in Sunday school class for you to tell a Bible story. And then next week, another person can tell that Bible story. So I think, to answer your question, I think some training in Bible story would be a good idea in our Sunday school.
I mean, Gabe went through that passage very well and thoroughly in about 5 minutes. So
He did the first time he did it, too.
And he could do it in Spanish.
And one thing that Kenny had pointed out as well was I get really nervous. You would never guess, right? Speaking in front of people. So I didn't want to share.
What did you want to do, Leandro? You didn't want to go on the trip? You didn't want to share?
The beach, you know. One thing he pointed out was that the most important thing is, yes, you can see the verse, but you need to figure out how you're going to tell that verse. You need to keep the facts in there, keep it in order as best as you can, but you also want to make it personal so that people receive it better. And one thing that he said was, it's best to do it by memory. And I tried looking at the verse and then tried to tell it to Mindy because we went together. And it just didn't work, but I could remember it better when I wasn't even looking at the Bible because I remember those key points, those key facts. And as long as those are intact, God will do the work for you.
Fantastic. Josh?
Give everybody a little acronym that they can remember. So this is something they taught us when we were learning the story. The acronym is CURB, C-U-R-B. This is how we want us to have our Bible stories. They want to be biblical, just what's in the Bible. That's what we're sticking with, what Jesus said. They need to be complete. We're not picking and choosing. We're not adding this here or this here. We're not stopping here because we don't like this point. They need to be understandable. If your audience doesn't know what you're saying, then how are they going to understand anything? And they have to be repeatable. We want to make disciples. We want them to understand and then go tell others. And that's basically the story message right there.
You are aware you said curb and then used the letters completely out of order.
Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure.
That's how Kenny did it as well, so.
Hey, no problem. Just want to make sure. Because I was trying to do it the way you were doing it in order, and I couldn't even pronounce it. So but I get your point. That's good. Other questions for the team? I know you've got some more questions. We've had 3 questions. Who's got the 4th? Nobody else. Eric Ogle has a question. What do you got for him, Eric?
What's the best part about going to the trip, and will you be willing to go back next year, and how did God use you?
Okay. What was the best part of the trip? Would you go back? And how did God use you? Gabe?
I'd say the best part of the trip was probably seeing how friendly all the people that were in Jaqué were. Because, like, if you come here to America, you'll see that many people are distant from each other and not very open to talking to each other. But down there in Jaqué, they were all friends and they were all family. And it was nice to see how different cultures are. Like, you'll come here and you'll see how ungrateful many kids and people are with the way they're living. And then you'll be in Jaqué, and where they barely have anything, they're just grateful for everything they already have. And the services at night were also very fun, because we can sing together and you can act like there's no tension in talking to strangers either.
I love that. Other favorite parts? Mindy?
I was actually going to say the same thing. So was Lucy. So I will share just a little bit. I struggled coming back because while you're there, life is so simple. And like Gabe said, everybody, we didn't know each other, but it felt like we knew each other. We didn't speak their language, but we were still communicating. So when I came back into the States, I struggled for a couple of weeks, being able to go through the life that I have here, because there, all I had to focus on was God. All I had to focus on was being close to Him and being close to His people. And then when I came back here, we've made our lives so busy that we barely have time to do those things. So I struggled with that. Would I go back tomorrow? I would definitely go back.
Oh, that's awesome. Mason, what was your favorite part?
My favorite part was probably prayer walk in the morning. I just liked starting my day off with you had conversations with people, you were interacting with people. You weren't so secluded. And yeah, I just starting my day off with praying and talking to people.
Would you go back?
The water was so cold,
Paul that bunking with Charles was not Mason's favorite.
The water was so cold, Paul didn't take a shower for 4 days, so it kind of smelled.
Wow. And listen, talking about, Eric shared about how he feels like God might be calling him into mission field. This summer, a lot of you that are familiar with Crossings, Lucy and Mason are going to be summer staffers at Cedarmore all summer long. You're looking at me like you changed your mind or something.
Well, and Kenny and Cheryl are going to be training us before the summer starts. They're coming across.
So they have a furlough to come? Okay, fantastic. Great.
Yes, I do.
Lucy.
My favorite part was probably just seeing how much God works in smaller ways, bigger ways. And like Mindy said, every second we were there glorifying God in some type of way. We were with the people of the community, just showing our love, showing God's love. Every single second was lived for God. So if I'd go back, like she said, I'd go tomorrow. I would love to be able to go back and just spend every single second worshiping our Lord.
I think it's fair that before I pray to close our session, that the brother of the guy that's in charge of this ministry has the last word. What do you got for us, John?
Well, this was, like I said, the 7th week that I'd spent there. Almost all the other weeks that I'd spent there, I'd spent working on carpentry projects or making chairs or beds or you name it. But even the week prior to our group coming, I'd spent a lot of time working on projects. But I was blessed to be able to fully participate in the training classes. And, I'm a little bit slow. So the stories are really starting to take with me. And I'm really encouraged to be able to share a story. I'm practicing on Shanda and Billy. But this is a very, very special ministry. The people there are a blessing from God to us. Whenever we go there, the Lord tells us, I believe it's in the book of John, He said, they'll know that you're my disciples because of your love. And these people here, while we're gone, we're really closer together. Our love for each other has grown. The love for the local church there in Jaqué. We have such a sense of brotherhood and fellowship with them. So I would go back. I would go back tonight. I wouldn't wait till tomorrow.
Fantastic. Well, again, because of our...
Let me say one thing.
No, you remember I said John had the last word? Just because you're a Sunday school teacher. Okay, all right, yeah, you get that part. What do you got, man?
Dane's told about story at the Upward, thank you. Jonas and Dave, Gabe and Lucy all storied at Upward last Saturday. And Mindy introduced them all. And I tell you, we got a great group here. And very thankful. And I want to thank y'all for your prayers, for your financial support. You were holding the rope for us back here, and we really appreciate that. We couldn't have done what we did without your prayers, and we appreciate it.
Michael, I know that was supposed to be the last word. But
You can be last. Lorinda Evans, a godsend to all of us.
This is just an example.
Closer to your mouth, Charles.
I didn't even know about this until we got back into the deacon meeting this Tuesday. And this shows you how God is working through all of this. Daniel shared with us that the day we were leaving, the 14th, we were had to be on the plane at 6 o'clock a.m. And I'm in financial risk management, so in preparation for this trip, I had a massive list of everything that could go wrong. Everything that could go wrong in my head.
Mindy's very happy that Charles did not share that with the rest of the group.
Daniel shared with us that at 2 a.m., God woke him up. He said he couldn't figure out why. So the only thing he knew is that it just popped in his head, hey, the mission team is leaving today. And he got down on his knees and prayed. And it was confirmation to me that God was watching over us. God had someone praying for us. And when I told him that night at the deacon meeting is, your prayer was answered because everything that could have gone wrong did not. Amen. And I think about
it. All right, let's have a word of prayer and then we will be dismissed. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the way you have moved in this room tonight. It's been an hour and a half, but it feels like much less than that because it's just been family kind of sitting around and sharing stories with each other. Thank you for what you did through our team. Thank you for their own growth. The way you challenged them, the way they're coming back with a heart to share the gospel with other people. And I pray that would spread amongst our entire church family. However you have called us to share, whether it's at our jobs, at our homes, whether you're actually preparing us to go on one of these trips, guide us, give us a boldness, and make missions one of the threads that binds us together as Central Baptist Church. Use us to share with our community, with Kentucky, with the nation, with the world, the good news that Jesus Christ is Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Dismissed.